Thank you for tuning into The Blend. My name is Steve Benz. We are broadcasting live from our Chicago studios. Today I've got a special treat for you. Fay Waybill, he fronts the band The Tubes. They've got top 40 hits like She's a Beauty, Talk to You Later, and Don't Want to Wait Anymore. Fay is out with his third solo project called Fay Waybill Rides Again. Fay, welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you having me.
Now, I did see on your new CD, you ride again. Are you really riding again?
I am. Well, Rides Again was a title from an old Western movie, Destry Rides Again. And I don't know where I came up with it. I mean, it's my third solo album.
Right.
So I thought it kind of fit. And I do ride. I'm actually a polo player. I have 4 horses, and I play polo. And I have ridden my whole life. My dad was a riding instructor when I grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay.
And we always had horses. We had a stable. My dad was a judge at horse shows. And so I kind of grew up on a horse. And up until the time I was about 18, 19 or so, when music and women became more important than horses. And we grew up, I grew up in Scottsdale watching all those old Westerns, The Searchers and Destry Rides Again and The Rifleman and The Virginian and Wanted Dead or Alive with Steve McQueen and everybody, all those actors, in the 50s, they all had to be cowboys. They had to do Westerns.
Is that what you were destined to be, was a cowboy versus a musician?
I've done both. I started as a cowboy. When I was 19, I dropped out of school at Arizona State University, and I moved to northern Arizona to a little town called Cottonwood, Arizona.
Okay.
And I went to work for a cowboy on a cattle ranch. His name was Dave Perkins, and I was a hippie cowboy. I was supposed to be a vegetarian, and until they intimidated me into eating mountain oysters. I don't know if you know what those are.
Yes.
But, and I rode the range for 2 years. I was a cowboy, and he had 250,000 acres
Oh my goodness.
of Forest Service lease that was all desert. And so there was so little food for cows that all he was allowed to have was 150 mother cows. So if you can imagine, 150 cows spread out over 250,000 acres.
Oh my goodness.
So I was a cowboy. I rode the range with Dave, and we, twice a year we'd go up and round up the cows and bring in the little babies and,
That sounds like too much work. I would have become a musician too.
Yeah, it was way too much work.
Way too much work.
Roger and Prairie asked me to drive the truck to San Francisco. I went, great, let's go. I'm going to hang up my boots. And I became the roadie for Roger and Prairie's band, and we moved to San Francisco in the fall of 1969.
Who were you listening to back then in terms of music?
Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, okay.
I mean, other than the Beatles.
Right.
The Beatles changed my life.
Right.
When the Beatles came out my first year of high school, and I lost it completely. And I was I wanted to play sports, and I wanted to, but I immediately became a theater arts guy. I went to the theater arts department, and I started doing musical comedies and acting and singing, and the Beatles changed everything.
Wow.
But those kind of years was 67, 68 was the Doors and Jimi Hendrix. I wanted to be Jim Morrison for a while, and then David Bowie came out, and I decided no, I want to be David Bowie, and I dyed my hair red and shaved my eyebrows off.
Oh my goodness. You want to be Jimi Hendrix, you want to be Jim Morrison, and then, somewhere along the way, you connect with pop music and Richard Marx. I am now completely confused.
I know it was weird. Well, it was certainly not planned. It's Richard Richard was a teenager, and in 1983, Richard's dad, was a famous jingle writer.
Yeah.
Richard's dad wrote the Double Mint Gum jingle. And Richard, he taught Richard to play keyboards and taught him to write. And Richard placed a song with Lionel Richie back in 1983. And he came out to L.A. to watch him record it. And while he was here, he said, I want to meet David Foster. And because he was a big fan of David Foster, and little known to me, he was a fan of me and my lyrics. And he knew David had done our first album, Completion Backward Principle, and he was a big fan of that. Sure. And so he showed up one day at a studio in L.A. when we were doing Outside Inside. And it was a day where there was David and Umberto Gatica and me and Bill, the guitar player. And Bill was having a hard time, with his amp. And it wasn't working, and he couldn't get the sound he wanted, and he was getting very frustrated, and trying. And we were in the studio, and I was there, and we were in the studio, and he was listening to a take, and he was going, "No, man, this is not the sound I want." And he turned around and he sees Richard Marx sitting in the back of the studio on the couch in the shadows, and here's this little kid that nobody knew, and nobody knew why he was there or if it was cool or what. And Bill got mad and said, "Dude, who are you? Who let you in here? Call security." and I knew someone had told me, and I said, "No, Bill, it's okay. He's just a kid. He came to see David. He wants to watch David Foster work." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And then at the end of the session, Richard came up to me and goes, "Man, thanks for defending me, man. I really appreciate it." And then he says, "I really like your lyrics. Would you write a song with me?" And I kind of went, "Okay, whatever." And so we did. We wrote. First song we ever wrote was the song on my first solo album, "Who Loves Ya Baby."
Okay.
And remember, "Who Loves Your Baby" was the tagline for Kojak.
Yeah, right. I was going to say Telly Savalas. Right,
Telly Savalas. And so we wrote "Who Loves Your Baby," and it was on my first solo album, "Read My Lips." It just kind of went from there. And then we wrote some other songs, and this was, he was still just a songwriter at that time. And we wrote a song for Vixen. Remember Vixen?
Oh, yeah.
And "Living on the Edge of a Broken Heart," they had a number one song, or I don't know what number it was, but and then we just kept writing songs, and then he got in 88 or 89, he got a deal to be an solo artist with Manhattan Records, which was a part of EMI, and
the rest is history for Richard.
Yeah, and he wrote "Don't Mean Nothing." And I think it went to number 2, his first single. And he sold like 3 million records, and I had like 4 lyrics on the record. And, that was it. We just started writing songs, and then the next record I had a bunch of songs, and the next record I had a bunch of songs, and, he started selling records like mad. And we have been best friends for, 37 years. Yeah. And have written hundreds of songs together, and
well, maybe you're my in with Richard Marx. I see him everywhere, but I haven't been introduced to him directly. I'm actually friends with Matt Scannell from Vertical Horizon, who I believe is on your new CD, is he not?
Oh yeah. Matt plays guitar. Matt plays guitar on a couple of songs, or 3, I think, on the record. Matt's been a friend for years and years. He lives here in the hills with us, with Elizabeth and I, my wife. And Matt's a great guy and a great guitar player. And we were actually going to play a gig. After we got done with the record,
right,
before the pandemic, in February, we finished the record, and Richard wanted to do a solo show, and he said, I'll I'll get my band together. We'll rehearse, Matt and my guys and me, and we'll back you up and do a live solo performance. I've never done a solo show before. I've never performed solo after all these years, and I wanted to do it. And Richard said, "Well, we're going to schedule it for May." Richard had a European tour planned for April and for March and April, and then he said, "I'm going to take May off. So we'll pick a weekend in May, and we'll get together, and we'll learn your songs, and we'll do a gig." And there's a little theater in L.A. called the Coronet.
Yep, I know that. I know that one.
And on La Cienega.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that owns it or runs it is I've been there many times to see comedians.
Yeah.
Different stuff, and we were going to do a gig. And then, March, 10th, the whole thing.
Yep. Just all collapsed. I cannot believe you have not performed solo with the work that you have out there. It is so much different than the band that I'm surprised. I'm really surprised, Fee. You have to do this.
Well, I will. I guarantee you I will. Just I don't want to have to do it with a mask on, okay? I don't want to have to do it with someone in every fourth seat.
Yeah.
Because of social distance.
No, we don't want that. And I remember seeing some of your performances where I think you were in like a TV head box of some sort and some wild hair. So that's the Fee I want to see. So
yeah,
because I met you last year. You're not going to remember this with the Lost 80s tour in Chicago. So we spoke briefly. Not some big deal. People were like fawning all over you, and a couple of women pushed me right out of the way, so I didn't feel so bad. But what a show that you did stepping out there. So what's the difference between the band Fee and solo artist Fee?
Well,
I mean, this new CD, if I have to say, sounds like a late 90s Foo Fighters CD. I'm telling you right now, it's that good.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I actually am friends with Dave, and I got to sing background vocals on one of their records, and I performed with them at the Forum a bunch, 3 or 4 years ago. I actually was a walk-on background singer-performer with the Foo Fighters. It was incredible. It was, 25,000 people.
Wow.
It was amazing. But and they're probably, well, without a doubt, my all-time favorite live rock band.
Yep.
And that record we did was analog, and I mean they're the real deal.
Yep.
I mean those guys are the real thing. And if anybody could compare my album to them,
yes.
I would be,
Absolutely. When I played Faker, which just jumped out at me, and Promised Land, I said, "My God, this is listening like to the Foo Fighters." That's the first thing I thought when I dropped the CD.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, that's brilliant. I think my stuff is just, and you would understand that it just seems more personal.
Yeah.
And the Tubes, with the Tubes, I kind of, have like a reputation
right.
or a expectation to live up to. You know what I mean?
Right.
And actually, we're working on a Tubes record. God knows how many years it'll take to come out. But Roger's been sending me songs to write lyrics for, and Prairie is helping us, write lyrics and stuff. Prairie actually did the art on my record, and
nice.
The CD package. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but
I have. I'm excited about it. I'm about to play some of the tracks after we talk as well. Those two specific tracks, Faker and Promised Land, and then I thought Richard Marx is a producer, and I thought this is guitar driven. Tell me how those two melted together.
Well, that's everybody thinks, he's got a new record out too. He's got a record called Limitless, which is not guitar driven, which is really interesting and really new and new sounding, and the sounds are all new sounding. But he is at heart, he is a rock and roller. He loves doing rock songs. He loves doing. It's just he's kind of been pigeonholed into the pop ballad singer, matinee idol, or whatever, and he does that so well. But he loves playing guitar, And he loves, I mean, he was raised as a keyboard player because his dad was a keyboard player, but he loves playing guitar, and he loves doing rock stuff. He used to do Talk to You Later in his old show, because he loves playing rock songs. But, and as soon as we wrote that song, as soon as we wrote Faker, he said, dude, I want to do this. I want to do guitar-driven rock and roll, classic rock. And, nobody does this. Like I said, the only band that I know that still does this is the Foo Fighters.
Right.
And,
it is true.
And that kind of that he loves it. He loves to play and sing and that's kind of what I've done my whole life. And I know it's kind of an unusual friendship that we have,
but it works. I mean, come on, 30 plus years, it works. It's good.
Yeah, 37 years, I think it's working. And, his sons are brilliant. The Marx brothers are my godsons, all three of them.
Wow.
Brandon played drums on Faker,
Wow.
or no, not on Faker, on How Dare You. And his other two sons, Lucas is the middle son. The guy is brilliant. Lucas plays keyboards and produces and writes. He produced and wrote a couple of the songs on Richard's new record. And then the youngest one, Jesse, is a speed metal guitar player.
God.
He's just about as far afield as he could get from his father's genre, but he's brilliant. The kid is brilliant, and he plays with him in the band and sings, and so we just somehow connected, and it's been that way, like from the very beginning, from the first day when I said, Bill, okay, give him a break. He's a kid,
and Richard never left. He's been there ever since, right? You're like, God, leave me alone, kid. Nope, he's there. That's good. On a side note, I just looked at the notice for where your CD is on Amazon already. Top 10. You must be so proud of that.
I'm stunned. I have to say, I'm stunned, and I'm so proud of this record. I think, this is certainly. Of course, it's I had more control in this than I've ever had with the Tubes record, and especially with Richard because we're so close. I'm so proud of it. I'm just so proud of it, and happy that people are liking it, and the reviewing is going well. And I've kind of fallen into the Man of the World trap. Man of the World is a song I wrote about all these people who are just so fixated with social media that they can't take their phone off their ear. And I never was, and I never did Twitter, I never did Facebook, I never did Instagram. I just went, no, I'm not doing it. And so since Richard's been helping me with Instagram, and I got a friend of mine to help me put up a website, and now I'm
Now you're plugged in.
Yeah, now I'm plugged in.
And then it will never stop because I just followed you on Instagram. So anybody want to follow the?
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I just did. I just saw it come up on my feed. I'm like, you're kidding me. The man finally got an Instagram or IG. Just throw IG at Richard.
Right. Finally. I mean, I've been but I want people to hear the record. I think that the timing is, unfortunate. I mean, it's good for me, but it's unfortunate that we're in such a situation in the world. But I wanted, some people said, no, don't release it now. The business is closed down. It's not happening. There's no touring. And I said, yeah, but everybody's at home. They would love nothing more than to have something new to bring them joy.
Exactly.
And that's my job. I mean, I when I was a hippie, I had this, the I Ching, the Chinese Book of Changes, and one day when I was sitting there in my, playing my guitar as a cowboy or something, I asked the I Ching, I threw the coins, and I asked the I Ching, what is my purpose on this planet? And it came up, taming of the small, which means bring joy to people.
Exactly.
And that's what I've been trying to do, and I really, I hate not being able to perform live, and I hate, like I said before, I don't want to do streaming. I don't want to play at a drive-in with people sitting in their car and a speaker on their window. I want to be able to look in their eyeballs and see them and have them see me, and each other realize the joy that we bring to each other. And so
I'm with you.
Staying optimistic. They're gonna find a way out of this. I know they are. There's too many brilliant people in the world working on this, and it's going to happen. I know it is.
It will, because Lord knows I do not want to be in a drive-in watching you perform. No thanks.
No, I won't be there.
No. It just won't.
And you saw the story about them doing that in Indiana with some yacht rock. There's some band called Yacht Rock Review, some 80s cover band or something, and they're playing at a drive-in with a bunch of people sitting there. And I'm sure they enjoyed it, but I'm not doing it.
Not for me. Not for me ever. Fee, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm going to have you back, so I'll talk to your people. It is an absolute pleasure. Here is the brand new track. It's called Faker. You're listening to The Blend.
Steve, appreciate it.